Thank you. The mayor of Mesa, I think, is typically found on Roosevelt Row in a bar, so no big news there tonight, is there? After listening to Heather, I kind of feel like I'm in group therapy tonight, right? So hi, I'm John. I'm a Republican. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I feel like I'm going to have to pay you all like a copay for the therapy session tonight. So please let me, if you've got any helpful hints, I'm here more for me than I am for you. I ran for a nonpartisan office as mayor of my hometown for a very specific reason, because I'm not a fan of partisan politics, for probably all the reasons that you get turned off by it. But I love my hometown, and I was really thrilled with the idea that, like Heather was saying, the impactfulness that you can have as an elected official really, it's hard to rival that. And so I've just loved the last 8 years and the opportunity I've had to be impactful in my hometown in a very nonpartisan way. And so but lately I've attracted a lot of attention, and that's, in spite of the fact that I'm mayor, that's really not something that I crave, frankly. And the reason that has been the case is because I am a registered Republican, and a month or two ago, I decided to film a television commercial for endorsing a candidate from outside of my party. Later, another television commercial endorsing an initiative to support Dreamers getting an equal shot at tuition in Arizona. This was not the reaction that I got. Electronically, I was really, I guess I was kind of dumb, because I dramatically underestimated the response that I was going to get from doing those two things. And here's what it was. Electronically, it's literally 10 to 1. People hate me for the unforgivable sin of endorsing someone who's not of your political persuasion. But I have to tell you that in the real world, with real people, 10 to 1, just the opposite, right? I mean, real people that I don't know, strangers, stop me in the airport and they say, "I'm sorry, you look like you're in a hurry, but I have to tell you thank you for giving voice to this weird notion that, party ought to come second to what's in the best interest of your community." So I don't regret making the choices to do what I've done at all. But I do have, I think people have very legitimately, I think a lot of the criticism I've gotten is funny, right? It's not illegitimate at all. But people have very fairly looked at me and said, okay, why are you still a Republican? If you feel that way, explain to me why you have not left the party. And that is a really good question, isn't it? And my answer to that question is I feel like I have an obligation as an elected official to model good behavior. Absolutely, there have been countless times over the last several months where I've said, okay, that's it. I'm emailing, Mr. Rickard right now and withdrawing my association. But I got to tell you, I am very grateful that I haven't done that. And that's because I'm not saying I will never do that, but I'm saying that right now I feel like I'm in a position that I can be impactful, right? And that's the whole thing that drew me to elected office in the first place. And so I'm really kind of enjoying this opportunity to irritate people, because I think it's going to motivate positive change in our community. Like Heather, I, as a young person, well, even not that young a person, I was very proud of my association with the Republican Party. I mean, I was an intern for Congressman John McCain, to let you know how old I am. And there were several people in the good old Republican Party that to this day, Grant Woods and others that have been mentors and examples to me that, and I'll never apologize to the people who want to put a knife in the heart of the McCain machine. So it just saddens me deeply that this party that in the past has stood for respect and integrity and honesty, and I mean even the Democratic even the folks in the Democratic Party would always say, I respected the individuals, I respected the integrity of that organization. I'm sad to say we can't say that anymore. So I'm not here to depress you, but I wanted to kind of set the stage, lower your joy level just a little bit to let you know that these are very important and challenging times, aren't they? And we all have to respond in our own ways. My way of responding is staying in the Republican Party and seeing what damage I can do. But I say that, again, my hope and prayer is that I will be, me and an army of people yet to be step forward, will have some impact. I don't mean to make it sound like I'm some kind of martyr. I'm having fun, and we'll see where this goes. But now that I've thoroughly depressed you, with thinking that we're all in this unwinnable culture war, I want to share a positive experience with you, okay? So again, I've had this wonderful experience of being the mayor of my hometown for the last 8 years. I was elected in 2014, and you all remember what was the big contentious issue back in 2014. If you're watching Fox News or CNN, they weren't talking about Donald Trump, they weren't talking about other things, they were talking about non-discrimination laws. Remember, like North Carolina was being sanctioned, and Houston had a referendum against the bathroom law, and I mean, that's just literally, and HRC and others were really putting a lot of pressure on local governments and on state organizations to pass non-discrimination laws, primarily identified to support and the LGBTQ rights in local and state government. So that's what was on the plate when I arrived on the scene as a mayor. And I had just a personal experience that kind of an epiphany. For those of you who are religious, kind of a personal revelatory experience with that convinced me that this is the right thing to do, and this is the right thing to do for my city. Well, as you know, Mesa is notoriously conservative, and this topic was very it was problematic even in Democratic Phoenix. Phoenix adopted an ordinance in 2013, but it was a very contentious process, and it was a day-long city council meeting with a lot of anger, and it wasn't done easily. And the same is true in the other more liberal cities in Arizona, Flagstaff, and Tucson. It was not an easy sledding. But I thought, it's the right thing to do. We're gonna forge ahead in Mesa. Well, ultimately, it was much more difficult than I anticipated. And it literally, we started and we stopped and we amended and we. It was a very involved process, and ultimately it really required, and that was a good. I'm glad it wasn't easy, right? Because the really good things happened from this very difficult process that we had to go through in Mesa, and what ended up is these wonderful coalitions that between the LGBTQ community and the faith community, because those were the sides that had to sing kumbaya for this thing to sail in Mesa. And ultimately it did. And so in March 1st, I carry around with me this pen. It says, I didn't plan on showing you this, Mesa, Arizona, NDO, March 1st, 2021. Because this is the pen that I used to sign that ordinance. And I gave this to some of the groups that were involved in it. So that happened. And that wasn't the end of the story, but because we were challenged. We had the legal, we had an initiative, we beat that. And because Mesa fell as that domino, Scottsdale, Glendale, Tolleson, Chandler's about to go. There's about 2 million more people in Maricopa County that have that protection that I really don't think would have happened had we chosen to not take that on. And so that's a big deal, but then, and this is the inspiring part, okay? I depressed you earlier. I'm trying to make up for that. This legislative session, I went to the Capitol for a press conference because the LGBTQ community and the faith community had come together and persuaded the leadership of the House to to give a hearing to a statewide non-discrimination law. And I remember standing there with very conservative LDS church leaders, the LGBTQ community, legislators, who were all singing from the same sheet of music. They were all endorsing the same piece of legislation. And I thought back to the year 2008 when the faith community pulled out every resource they could to amend the state constitution to make same-sex marriage illegal. And those two organizations, the faith community and the LGBT community, you couldn't describe it as anything but fierce enemies. And I just remember thinking, how does this happen? How do you go from being, absolute enemies to now linking arms, pushing the same piece of legislation? And it brought a tear to my eye. Obviously, I cry easily, but I want you to, that's my takeaway for you, is that's the world that we live in, really. The real world, the world where people stop me and say thank you for doing that commercial. The world where the LGBTQ community and the religious conservative community come together with the same piece of legislation. So it's easy to be discouraged, but there is a lot for us to do. As soon as this election is over, I think we all need to get rallying around the issue of nonpartisan primary elections. I was talking to some Republicans from Colorado just a week ago, and they said, "You guys are crazy in Arizona. What's going on?" And they said, in our state, the MAGA candidates all in the Republican primary lost by 10 or 20 points. And the reason is because in Arizona, we make it extremely difficult for independents to participate in partisan primaries. We need to change that. I think that's the systemic cure that we have to make for this state to go from where we are to where we're going. So thank you. Remember, the world we live in is that world that where nice people help each other and that we can expect to make good things happen. And again, I appreciate being included in the show tonight. Thank you very much.